All right, let's just address the elephant in the room. Getting your very first apartment, it can feel a little terrifying, right? But here's the good news. In today's explainer, we're taking that scary legal maze and turning it into a completely manageable, empowering checklist. Because setting up your own place is a massive step toward financial independence, and we're going to make sure you can sign that paperwork with absolute confidence. So here's our game plan for today. We'll decode the lease agreement, break down the 30% rule, expose those pesky hidden utility costs, and finally, lock in your renter's insurance. Let's kick things off right away with Section 1, the lease agreement. You know, a lot of people treat renting like they're just paying for an extended hotel stay, but it's really not. A lease is a legally binding contract between you and your landlord. It's a serious financial relationship, and actually reading the thing, that is exactly what protects you from some pretty nasty surprises down the road. So what exactly are you signing your life away on here? A standard lease usually runs for 12 months, locking in your rent amount and your due date. But you've got to look closer because it literally dictates your lifestyle. Can you bring a pet? Can you smoke? What about subletting? It also lays out how much notice you have to give before moving out, usually 30 to 60 days. But here is the biggest trap to watch out for: early break penalties. If you try to bail before those 12 months are up, there is a very real chance you could lose your entire security deposit, plus get slapped with a massive penalty of 1 or 2 months' rent. Yikes. And this leads us right into a classic rookie mistake. Let's say you're touring a place and the landlord smiles and says, "Oh, sure, pets are totally fine." Listen to me carefully here. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist. Never, ever assume a promise is enforceable unless it is explicitly written in that agreement, period. If they say your dog can move in, get it in writing. Otherwise, legally speaking, you have to assume pets are strictly prohibited. Okay, moving right along to Section 2, the 30% rule. Now that we know how to read the actual contract, we need to figure out how much apartment we can actually afford without, going completely broke. The golden rule for housing affordability is pretty straightforward. Spend absolutely no more than 30% of your gross before tax monthly income on rent. That 30% is your absolute ceiling. That leaves the other 70% for the rest of your life: taxes, groceries, transportation, and, absolutely crucial, your savings. Let's actually run the numbers to make this concrete. Imagine you're earning $45,000 a year at your first job. You divide that by 12, which makes your gross monthly income $3,750. Apply that 30% rule, and your absolute maximum rent tops out at $1,125. That means a shiny, luxury $1,500 apartment? Totally off the table. Well, unless you get a roommate to split the cost, or you drastically slash the rest of your lifestyle. Okay, quick checkpoint just to test the waters here. If you earn $38,000 a year, what's your maximum affordable rent under the 30% rule? Do the quick mental math, divide it by 12, multiply by 30%. You should hit a hard ceiling of exactly $950 a month. Makes sense, right? But here is a piece of advice you absolutely need to remember. 30% is a ceiling, it's not a target. Just think about a renter who maxes out their budget right at that $1,125 limit versus a really savvy renter who finds a great, safe place for just $875. That is only about 23% of their gross income. Why does that matter? Well, that small drop in percentage translates to a massive $3,000 a year in savings. We are talking about $3,000 extra dollars going straight into an emergency fund, an investment account, or aggressively wiping out those student loans. It's a real game changer. Next up, Section 3, hidden utility costs. So with the budget locked in, we hit the pavement for the actual apartment hunt. And this is where we uncover the traps that make some places look deceptively cheap. You might see 2 apartment listings with the exact same rent price, but one of them includes water, trash, electricity, gas, and maybe even internet, while the other one is strictly rent only. Suddenly, those identical sticker prices represent vastly different realities. You've got to always ask what utilities and perks, like a parking spot, are actually included before you sign anything. And just to put that into perspective, how different can those costs actually be? Well, an apartment with all utilities included can save you anywhere from $150 to $250 every single month compared to paying for them separately. That is a massive variable in your budget that you simply cannot ignore when you're doing your math. All right, we're in the home stretch now. Section 4, renter's insurance. Once you've finally secured the apartment, you've got to secure your stuff. What's genuinely surprising about renter's insurance is how unbelievably cheap it actually is. We are talking just 15 to 30 bucks a month. Literally for the cost of a single takeout dinner, you're buying a massive amount of financial peace of mind. For that tiny monthly fee, you are covering your personal belongings against fire, theft, or other covered disasters. Just imagine having to replace your laptop, your entire wardrobe, your furniture, all completely out of pocket. It would be devastating, right? So it's almost always worth having. And frankly, a growing number of landlords actually require you to show proof of it before they'll even hand over the keys. So we've covered the legally binding lease, the 30% math, those sneaky hidden utility traps, and of course, insurance. You are no longer walking blindly into a legal agreement, you are totally taking control. Which leaves me with one final question for you. With all these hidden costs uncovered, what are you going to do with the thousands of dollars you save by mastering the rules of renting? Because that real financial power, it's entirely in your hands. Thanks for tuning in to this explainer and happy hunting out there.